What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Strive. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what's really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So over the last couple of trading days, it's been hit quite hard. So on Thursday, it went down 6.99%, and then Friday, down 7.7%. It's been absolutely brutal, and I think overall sentiment has turned very negative. And so my last video did come out on November the 22nd, and this is why exactly I like to look at a lot of the data. And for those of you that actually tune into some of my videos, I'm not here to BS you. There's way too many YouTubers and influencers out there that just love to say that this stock is going to go to $2, $5, and whatever else. For those of you, again, that kind of tuned in, I accurately called it running up twice, as well as it consolidating. This is why I like to look at the true data behind the scenes, not have so much emotion in it. So ultimately, there was a couple of things that did really affect the broader market and kind of turned some stocks to risk off. And that is because of PCE and Michigan consumer sentiment. Both came in flat, so it didn't really move the needle for the likelihood of a cut for the upcoming December 10th meeting. So going into this upcoming week, there is a 86.2% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. There really hasn't been that much in news from the company itself. So of course, it's just been reacting to the crazy volatility that cryptocurrency has been undergoing. At the same time, you are seeing shorts really double down. So for instance, even on Friday, shorts did increase 5.34 million shares. That is just net. So they do obviously trade back and forth throughout the day. So net, they increased to 5.3 million. You can see at the peak, they were increasing about 8.7 million. So they were very, very active. 35.28% of the free float being shorted, works out to be 95.97 million shares overall being shorted. One thing to take notice though, is cost to borrow minimum is negative 0.56%. This has changed and is new information from last time I've done a video. That does mean that there is a broker or several brokers out there physically paying people to short the stock because it is negative. Normally, when someone shorts a stock, you pretty much have to pay, for those of you that are familiar. When it's negative, that does mean brokers are paying. So definitely some messed up stuff is happening behind the scenes. I'm not here to say that this is full manipulation and just naked shorting and all that stuff. Just based on that, it adds and brings up some very interesting questions. But aside from that though, when it comes down to some data, options data, 1.2 million in calls were done on Friday, 351,000 in puts, and then 55% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. And from a bull standpoint, going into this upcoming week, you see a consensus for it to be above 1. So not too much optimism in all fairness. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub $1. And this is again why I like to look at a lot of the data, because of that 101 million shares that were traded, most were again linked to shorts as well as algorithmic trading, and you can see that there weren't that many institutional transactions. So roughly around 5 buys, and it looks like around 5 sells. So very evenly divided. So this again paints a different picture than what happened with the stock price, down 7.7%. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So of course, dark pool is often enough used by shorts as well as hedge funds. Hedge funds typically are the hold numbers right here, so around 160,000 and so forth. So it looks like most of these transactions are actually linked to shorts. So again, that's where most of the volume does come from. So I think even on Friday, roughly around 45 or 46% of all the volume being done were linked to shorts. And that seems to be a little bit more of a common occurrence with this stock. Aside from that though, with it closing at 90 cents, it did regrettably break below this S1. So 96 cents is going to be that key point you really want to get over early on next week if you are going to see any sort of recovery. I know some people don't really like looking at technicals with in regards to a momentum stock, but for those of you that want a dollar cost average or swing trade, it's definitely worthwhile to kind of just take a mental note of it. So 77 cents is going to be the next strong support. And so not saying that it's going to be hit come Monday, but if things do worsen and this upcoming week, we do have Powell potentially giving a 25 basis point cut, and depending on what he says afterwards, whether he alludes to a January cut as well, then you could see a nice recovery. But if he comes in all doom and gloomish, then yeah, you could anticipate a 77-cent hit, unfortunately. But aside from all of that fun stuff though, on the actual chart, so going into this upcoming week, it's been a brutal last 5 days, or 6 days, or give or take. But we are below that 10-day moving average. That's a big deal for momentum stocks. So it shows that momentum is kind of diminishing. And there was a very notable increase in volume both Thursday and Friday. So again, I think a lot of just abnormal volume. This stock doesn't have any convertible notes, I don't believe. Or sorry, they do, but it's very minimal. So quickly showing this. May 2024, and it shows that there's roughly around 800,000 potentially that could be diluted. And so given the fact that on Friday there was 110 million shares being traded, and then on the Thursday 130, then that 800,000 would do absolutely nothing to kind of cause that volume bump up right there. So in reality, I think just shorts and hedge funds, they were kind of doing their thing as well. So that's probably where some of that volume did come from. But even looking at the market position, you don't see that much in willing buyers. You see some maybe up to about the 84-cent range. Low for Friday was 88 cents. So yeah, I think in general, it's just going to piggyback off of the broader market sentiment. And this upcoming week, we do have a lot of big things coming out that could change just the perception of like the market, whether we kind of move to the next leg higher or whether we completely just break down. So this week's going to be a very big week for a lot of stocks, including this stock right here. So let me know your thoughts on 𝗪𝗧. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What's your overall 2 cents on all of that? It doesn't really take all that much though. We kind of saw, just for instance, on October the 23rd, didn't really take too much for things to really heat up. And for those of you that are looking for some solid buy signals, pop over to my Patreon. I put out a lot of good, solid, on point swing trades, as well as I put out daily day trades. I actually did signal 𝗪𝗧 as a good buy. I think it was around 80 cents, and I did give a exit of $1.45. So I didn't really catch the peak right there, but for those of you that again joined, you were able to make some very good money. I haven't really done any posts on 𝗪𝗧 since then, but rather I've done some videos calling out how this was a good rally right here, a good potential. So you made some about 15-20% there, but still I think overall just it's going to be a lot more volatility. So don't believe a lot of the influencers out there saying that it's going to $5, $10. That's what people do, right? People love to be optimistic, and optimism gets views. So do your own due diligence. I'm not here to BS you. So pop over to the Patreon if you're looking for some no BS buy signals. And with all that said, appreciate all of you guys watching.